Welcome to the 9th Lunch and Learn session on Operational Excellence. This session's topic is Employee Skills Matrix. Leveraging the employee's skills to create a high-performing organization. This session is sponsored by Jamestown Community College Workforce Readiness. The session is facilitated by Max Krug from Future State Engineering. We hope that you enjoy the session.
Okay, so good day, everyone. So today's session is our last session on the Lunch and Learn series on operational excellence. Today we're going to talk about the employee skills matrix. And this is really being able to leverage our employee skills to create a high-performing organization. So a lot of times we go into companies and we look at how we can improve performance, and it's really about doing more with the resources you have. So a lot of companies I go into, their number one issue is we can't find good people. The approach I take is you have good people, we just need to leverage their skills within the organization to improve the productivity of the organization. So that's what today's session is going to talk about. And we're really going to tie everything together today from all the sessions that we've talked about in the past. If you haven't seen the previous sessions, you can go on to YouTube and view them. If you want to get more information, those will always be available. Today's session is focused on the last bullet point here of one of the necessary conditions of establishing that positive change in organizational culture. So our weekly Dilbert cartoon. So what is not a good training approach? So the boss says, who needs training to keep up with technology trends? And the one guy says, me. He says, you're fired. I don't want people who already know how to do their jobs. Okay, because I didn't see that coming. And Wally says, they don't have a class to fix that. Okay, so the point is, things are changing at an accelerated pace, so we need to keep our employees up with the latest skills and continue to develop the skills that we have with the employees that are currently employed with the organization. Going back to synchronous flow, so our objective is always to create a high-performing organization and synchronize that flow across the organization. So when we start synchronizing the flow, so it doesn't matter what type of organization you have flow in your organization. So it's understanding those needs of the customer and establishing the processes to satisfy those needs. Once we define the flow, we want to synchronize that flow to customer demand. So if you remember from our synchronous flow discussions, we want everybody rowing in sync, right? Having one person be super efficient doesn't help us meet our goal. So what we'd like to do is utilize this person that has extra capacity in another area to actually improve the organization at a faster rate. So if I could take this guy and I could put another seat in this boat and I could utilize him here with 5 rowers instead of 4, I'm going to be able to go at a faster pace even, right, than I can with 4 people. So that's what we're talking about here, how to create that extra capacity that's created from synchronizing the flow and leverage that for the organization. Last week we talked about hidden capacity, and when we start looking at synchronizing, 2 things are going to happen. We're going to have extra capacity just from the synchronization, and then we're going to expose hidden capacity from eliminating that busy work. So those 2 elements alone, synchronization and eliminating the busy work, is going to expose a lot of capacity. So elimination of the busy work can increase capacity of a resource by a minimum of 25%. So think about your day-to-day activities. How much time are you spending doing busy work that's not actually converting to useful outputs? We want to leverage that and expose that hidden capacity and then utilize that to help the overall organizational productivity. So when we talk about leveraging that exposed capacity, in order to take full advantage of that, there needs to be a process in place to understand when and what resources can be utilized in other areas. So the employee skills matrix tool is a tool that helps us support that concept of what I call transferable capacity. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done here to get to a employee skills matrix that's useful. So depending on where you are in that process of identifying what skills employees have and how to leverage that, it's going to be different for every organization. But the concept is we expose that capacity. The first place we want to focus that capacity is where we have constraints in our organization. So if we have a department that's constantly behind and never will get caught up, we want to leverage those resources that we free up to help with that department. So we call those the capacity constrained resources. That's the first place we want to help. Second of all, we want to look at critical resources within the organization. So when I define critical resources, I'm talking about resources that we don't have backups for. So if we have people with specific skills that nobody else in the organization has, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we get backups for those skills. Because if that person leaves, then we're going to be in trouble because we have nobody that can backfill that work. Okay, so again, our focusing mechanism, we don't need to create a training for every position in the organization. We need to create it for the critical positions in the organization as a first step. So those criticals are capacity constrained departments and resources that have critical skills that nobody else in the organization has. So establishing employee skills matrix, it's really getting the concept of getting the right employees in the right seat on the bus. Okay, so there's a book out there, Good to Great, that talks about how to create a great organization, and one of the elements is to get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus. Once you get them on the bus, you need to get them in the right seat. So the employee skills matrix is really focused on getting those employees on the right seat on the bus. So it's just a table that shows the information about the individual's experience, skills, and competencies. So here's an example of one. And again, you can design it any way you want for your organization. But the main thing is we want to understand the skills required to do each job. So if I take a machinist, the skills that machinist needs to be able to do, he needs to be able to read a blueprint. He needs to be able to do shop math. Depending on if you're using geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, he might need to know how to read those types of prints. He needs to do CNC programming. He needs to know how to set up tools. He needs to know how to gauge parts. He needs to know how to change over the machine. And from a quality assurance perspective, we want him to have certain problem-solving skills. He might need to know about statistical process control. He might need to know how to read control plans. He might need to understand how to do gauge R&R studies or failure modes and effects analysis. So for each position in your organization, we want to look at the skills that people need to perform that function. Then once we define that, we start listing our employees, and I have a basic competency level here. So level 1 means they have basic knowledge. They're familiar with it, but they can't actually do it. 2, they can actually apply that knowledge. 3, they have expert proficiency, and 4, they're capable of training others. So now you can see where we have gaps in our proficiencies. So if I look at this real quickly, I can see, oh, for control plans, we're not very strong in control plans. But CNC programming, we're much stronger in that area. Okay, so this employee skills matrix, so the part that I see most companies missing is this detail here of what specific skills are required for each position. So yes, people have job descriptions, but usually it doesn't get to the skill level. So to start out creating that skills matrix, there's multiple steps we want to follow. So the first one is determine the skills needed for each position, right? Usually companies have a lot of work to do there because they don't have it defined in terms of what skills are necessary. They have job descriptions, so you need to take your job descriptions and convert that into required skills. Once you get those skills, then you need to gauge each employee's level 1 through 4 against that skill. Okay. Then have the employees rank their level of interest in a skill. So if they don't have an interest in doing any quality type stuff, right, then we don't want to focus on that. If they want to be a machinist, then we know what types of skills that they need to become a machinist. So now we have a gap analysis between what we need and what we have. So now we want to close that gap. So we use that information to identify where we have missing skills and develop our training matrix. So the skills matrix is first, training matrix is second. Okay, so the training matrix defines what employees are going to have what training at what specific point in time. Then we can develop the employee's career path with the appropriate training plan. So if we understand where the employee wants to go with his career, we can design the training plan accordingly. So we talked about achieving buy-in from the employee, so creating this skills matrix and this plan with the employee, giving them what they want to get where they want to get in the organization is part of that buy-in process, and it's going to retain employees. Next, we want to talk about continuously improving our training. So once we develop the skills matrix, we put the training plan in place, we want to continuously improve the training program. So first of all, we want to make sure we streamline and simplify processes and methods. So we don't want to train new employees to bad processes. So that's, if we have employees that want to transfer to a different area and learn different skills, we want to make sure that we train them on best practices, not bad processes, right? Then we're just going to accelerate the rate at which we make defects, okay? Build accountability in the process. We had a whole session on building accountability into the process and establishing those visual controls to identify when there's abnormalities happening. And we want that immediate feedback so that if something does go wrong, especially when someone's in training and they do something not correct, we need that immediate feedback to correct it on the spot, right? We can't let those behaviors continue, then it's going to be harder to retrain that person back to what the correct process is. Then we need a mechanism to monitor the training effectiveness. So we see this as a big gap in companies where they do training, but nobody's going and looking at how effective was that training that we actually did. And you can use the training skills matrix to measure that effectiveness. So if someone's a level 1 and we do training, he should be able to move to a level 2. If he can be at a level 2, then we can see the progression in the training effectiveness. So I have one company I'm working with. When we talk about KPIs for the organization, they talk about their skills matrix and they just total up all the numbers in the skills matrix and they have a number for employee skills. Okay, so if we're doing the appropriate training and improving the skills, I expect that number to go up. If the number's going down, that's a problem. We need to understand why it's going down. So how can the numbers go down? Well, we have a highly skilled person that retires, right? There are 4s in all categories. When he leaves the company, that reduces the total skill level. Okay, or we lose employees, they leave the company, that can cause the number to decline. Okay, so we're using that overall metric to determine what's our skill level and are we constantly focused on improving our employee skills. Then we want to engage employees in improving the training process. So every process can be improved and improved significantly. So let the employees have feedback on how to improve the training process. And again, people learn different ways. So we want to design the training to meet how people learn. Then we can use that skills matrix to develop the career paths for employees. Okay, so we have where we are today, where the gaps are, and where we need to fill the gaps and putting the plan together. Okay, so session overview for the skills matrix. So number 1 is the objective is to produce more with the resources we have by leveraging the capabilities of the current workforce. So if you have trouble finding good people, you have extra capacity in your organization now. If you haven't done any type of work in terms of operational excellence, there's probably 20 to 25% capacity available today. So in improving the employee skills, we want to focus on establishing the skills required for each position within the organization. So understand what's required. And again, we're getting to the skill level. I'm not talking job description here. Start with the critical resources. So where we have resources that aren't either have unique skills that nobody else has, or we have constraint areas, focus there first. Develop a methodology for gauging the employee's skills. So once we develop the skills matrix, how are we going to decide what level they are? Are they level 1? Are they level 2? So what's the criteria for determining what level they fit into that matrix? Then document their current skills, and then develop the training plan to improve the overall skills within the organization. Okay, so that concludes today's session. We're a little bit short of time, but if anyone has questions, we can field them now, and Delana can talk about the upcoming events. You gotta unmute yourself, Delana.
Thank you, Max. On behalf of JCC's Workforce Readiness and Future State Engineering, I wanted to thank everyone, not only for attending today's session, but for attending all 9 of our Lunch and Learn sessions. We hope they've been valuable. We hope you've gotten some tools maybe that you didn't have. And if you'd like to take a deeper dive into all of the topics that we've been talking about, we are offering, in conjunction with JCC, 2 8-hour online workshops. The first one is Introduction to Operational Excellence, and that takes place on June 23rd, 25th, 30th, and July 2nd, and that's from 1 to 3 p.m. And then the second workshop is Creating and Sustaining a Quality Culture with Accountability, and that workshop is on July 16th, 21st, 23rd, and 28th, and that's from 9 to 11 a.m. These courses are both deeply discounted at $149 each, and we hope you take advantage of them. Max, I don't know if you want to say anything about those or what they might entail.
Yeah, so the Operational Excellence Workshop is a more hands-on. So some of the concepts we talked about in the sessions, we go into a deeper dive, like Delana said, and we have actually exercises to reinforce some of the learning. So there's a lot of hands-on exercises to keep it interactive, and so that you can not only understand the theory, but the application of the theory. Then the creating and sustaining a quality culture. So we call it a quality culture, but it's really a zero defects culture. So what needs to be in place so that we have the culture that defects are not acceptable, okay? And how do we build accountability? What are the tools that we're going to use to build that accountability into the process? So again, we're getting into the application of this, not just the theory.
Max, I have a question. This is Keith.
Yep.
And I threw it in the chat, but I'll just read it. I was wondering, can we work with our own employees to create these skills matrix, or is there a benefit of asking you to work with the staff, and the specific employees to create the matrix for certain positions? I'm just thinking that you would have the background, more of a background of possibly what components or skills are needed to move the training forward. So
it depends on each organization where they are. Some companies don't even have job description.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the first step would be at least get a job description, then take the job description and define what skills are required. And once you do it for a couple positions, the rest of them are going to be easy because there's only so many skills that you need within your organization. So you can do specific job-related skills or specific methods type skills. So you saw the one with machining. I have specific machining-related skills, and then I have general skills like problem solving and those types of things that people in the organization need to know. So I don't know if that answers your question. So a lot of times people are overwhelmed. They don't have time to do this. So that's why it doesn't get done. And usually I don't usually put the training matrix in place until we get stability in operations, right? If you're in chaos, doing the training matrix first, that's why this is session 9. You really need to do all the other components before you start this one.
Okay, are there any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and speak directly to Max.
And Kathleen, I'm sorry, I didn't share with people if they were interested in taking the 2 upcoming online workshops, how they could register. Would you be willing to share a little bit?
Sure, you can go right to the JCC Workforce Readiness page on our website. And there are, if you scroll down, you can see the classes on there. And there are forms where you can register right online and pay. Or if you need to have your business pay, then there is that option as well. And you can always reach out to me. I have sent you all emails right along regarding these sessions. So never hesitate to reach out to me to ask any questions that you have, whether it's, you know, on these trainings or something different that you'd like to see.
And to answer a little bit more of Keith's question also, you know, take your top performers in departments and have them start defining what skills are required. So their perception of what is necessary to be a high performing employee in that department.
Max, just one last question. Do you have to go through all the employees at once and figure the whole skills matrix, or can you just start with a certain area or a certain task or
Yeah, so I would start with those critical resources and the constraint areas. So if you have a department in your company that's usually running a lot of overtime, or they're always behind and never can catch up, right? We want to focus there.
Okay. All right, thank you. These have been great. Thanks for the lunch and learns, Max. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hope people found them valuable.
Absolutely.